Welcome to the Top 200 podcast with your host, Herschel Foran.
What's up, everybody? It's Herschel Foran from High School Top 200, and this is the Monday morning reading. Welcome back again. If you're new to this channel, like and subscribe, all that kind of stuff, to the YouTube page for the notifications, things like that. Also on Facebook and Instagram, go on to High School Top 200 or HS Top 200, and then also subscribe. A $5 subscription to the website hstop200.com. It is not free. If you sign up, it's just for free, just to sign up, but it doesn't mean that you get any kind of content. Not my fault. Somebody else designed it. It's really stupid. I told them it was stupid. They thought it was like smart, but it wasn't. Turned out to be real dumb, and so sorry to all those who have said that they signed up for free and they got no content. It's just the way that they did it. So when I'm able to change it, I'll get it changed. But just, sacrifice one coffee for the month just to subscribe to hstop200.com, and you'll get all the information, first 15 all around the country, stuff like that. It's been a pretty busy day today. It's my mom's birthday today. I love you very much, Mom. Happy birthday, and thank you for everything that you've done for me and continue to do for me even to this day. And I hope you have a great day. And I would like to start this episode off with my thoughts first on the 1B final, because on Saturday I went to the 1B final, Auckland 1B final. I also went to the 1A final, and then I have some other thoughts about the other games, and we'll talk about some of the matchups that are coming up too. So with the 1B final, right, I had it being a close game between Botany Downs and Howick, but when it came down to it, and just watching the game, Howick just didn't play good. Howick was just not this Howick that I've seen of 4 times this year that I've seen them play this year. And I was kind of disappointed too, and I don't actually know what it was about them, but I don't know if it's being prepared, but they just went the same side. Like, they didn't really have that much structure. Their defense wasn't as good as it usually is. The breaks that they were making on most of the games that they made, they just weren't coming off. But I could kind of actually, at least for like the last 4 weeks or so, they haven't really had a good run of good games for 4 weeks, 5 weeks. They've struggled a bit and lost the game, but when I saw them on Saturday, it just wasn't the one that I was expecting to see. They're usually really, really good. They're really, really composed. They're really, really accurate in the way that they attack. Because Cruz is the main guy in that team, and whether he plays at first 5 or second 5, they're usually able to create, even not just off like missed opportunities, but even create out wide, being able to use the fullback that comes through sometimes, him in the center, and they usually be able to create outside, but for some reason their forwards weren't moving. They'll go out the back, they'll spread it wide, they would have nothing. When they gained meters, they sort of gained little bits at a time, but then they never got to a point where they were able to make 1 or 2 big openings or breaks, line breaks in the Botany defense. And obviously a lot or some of it should go into Botany's defense. That's one thing that you can sort of credit to Julius and Randell and the way that they defend. But I just don't think Howick was kind of up to it, I don't think, I'm not too sure if it was the, maybe the moment got too big for them, but it just wasn't the one that I was expecting to see. Then on the other hand, you've got Botany Downs where Randell and Julius had massive games. Viliami had a massive game. The hooker, I'm forgetting your name, bro. You and the tight head prop had really good games. First 5, and then the number 14 wing on the other side. Also the fullback who had massive kicking skills. All had really good games. All ran really well. And the worst thing is that, like, in the beginning of this game, right? And I think you could kind of see from the footage, that little bits of clips that I put up, is that every time Howick had the ball, they retained it, but they didn't really make that many meters. They made meters based on Botany messing up, dropping the ball, which they did for like 4 possessions in a row right in the beginning. Botany dropped the ball every single time they had a chance to attack. They had perfect positions on the field. They had great defense where they'll force Howick out over the side, get a line out, start one phase to go to the next, and then they'll drop the ball. Then they'll be able to kick it out at some point. You know, they'll stop Howick, kick it back down. Howick would run it back. They would, get a turnover. They'll have a scrum midfield. They'll pass out, have 1 or 2 phases, and then they'll drop the ball again. And this happened for for at least 12 to 15 minutes right in the beginning of the game. That's what Botany was doing. They set themselves up great with great defense, solid defense, good turnovers, tackled in bunches, counter-rucked, things like that where they got to the ball, solid defense, held guys up, but then when they went to attack, they just fell to bits. And this was just in the first possessions. As the game went on, I guess all the excitement of the moment wore off, and they just got down to rugby, and then they started to score their points. From penalties, they kicked some really good penalties. I think settled themselves down a little bit, then started to score tries by using the forwards a lot, that big bulky forward pack, and then just steady grind the whole time that Botany did, and the way that the first 5 worked it and controlled. Great passing game on Saturday too. Had a great passing game, and then after the way that the forwards set up and gave themselves some space, gave themselves some time and just developed some structure. They just started making holes all over the place against Howick, and it was a great win for Botany Downs. Kind of a sad game for Howick in a way. And I don't think I'm out of place in saying, because I have a feeling that their crowd had the same feeling I had in terms of what Howick team is this, because this is not usual, and usually they play really good angles in the forwards. They play really good even single runners. They're really good at even single running rugby, where they don't really need that much help because they got such explosive guys in their forward pack. But it just didn't shine, man. It just really didn't, and I was kind of gutted for them. Maybe one of their worst games of the season. It just fell in the finals. and that's just something that you can't really control. You can't really predict that something like that's going to happen where everybody seems to be off at the same time. And, as much as they tried their hardest, and even within the last closing moments, maybe the last, let's say 9 minutes, 7 to 9 minutes, something like that, they scored their try, pushed for another one, sped the game up. Yeah, man, they're just too far behind, and Botany was just playing too good by then, and they sort of wrapped it up. And congrats to Botany. Hopefully, a few of those guys in that final, like I think Cruz, Randell, and Julius should probably make the under-18s. Blue side, I would pick them. Those guys would probably be ones that I would look out for if they had like a 50-man squad, depending on how much they're picking. I'm not too sure how much they're picking, but I would pick those three for sure. Randell to me is probably, if they had to pick an MVP of that 1B, Randell would be that. I actually think Randell's probably the best number 6 that they have in the Blues region. And I hope that they are keeping close eye on what he's been able to do this year, and that Botany has been pushing for him to be seen by selectors. He's Tongan Māori, which I found out, and so I'm hoping that the under-18s Māoris keep an eye out for him as well. And if I was Tonga as well, I would definitely keep an eye out for him and for Tongan selections for whatever they do, for whatever they do. He's just a big body. He can definitely play. Like, there's like not a lot of teams around the country that I think he wouldn't be able to start in at number 6 or number 8. Their loose trio as a whole, with Julius, Michael, and Randell, I would say, and I've said it before in one of my writings, it's like I would say that they're probably one of the best loose trios around the country. Not just in Auckland, not just in the 1B, but around the country. I would actually put them up easily against everybody in the 1A, everyone in the Super 8, even down in the Miles Toyota Cup. I would put them up against anybody. I think that they're that good as a trio, and I think Randell is that good of a player. And if selectors have done their homework, and if selectors have been watching him throughout, he should be in the Blues, and he should probably push for see, I don't want to hype him up, but I think that he has a bracket for Barbarians and New Zealanders and Māoris. Whichever one you put higher, because to me, like, Māoris, under-18s, and Barbarians is on the same level. Māoris could have beaten the New Zealand secondary schools team last year. They were that close. They beat the Barbarians. Māoris is that close. So I think Māoris, under-18 Māoris and New Zealand Barbarians are on the same level. And I think that kids, if they get the selection for both, they should look at it as, oh, these are equal things. I just got to choose which one's better for me. And if you choose under-18 Māoris over New Zealand Barbarians, I would understand. Because New Zealand's have got under-18 Māoris have got a good program, a good mixture of belief, culture, tradition, iwi, and rugby put all together. And I would understand if you pick New Zealand Barbarians, because that has been the second standard to what our New Zealand secondary schools is. So, for most of you guys that are in that situation, like Randell would be, like, if I was under 18s Māori, I would go after Randell hard out. If I was New Zealand Barbarians or New Zealand secondary schools, I would also probably go after Randell too, or really put him in these brackets of where does he fall in terms of blindside flankers. Because I really, really would not be surprised if he made New Zealand secondary schools, or at least got the push to be Barbarians or Māoris. He's that good. I actually think he's that good. And I hope he gets that shot. Remember, I'm not a selector. I don't have any push or sway in this. This is just my opinion. But my opinion is based on watching everybody this year. I don't think there's not one team that I haven't seen this year in the ranking of my top 100. I've seen everybody at least one time. At least one time. If you're in the top 75, I've at least seen you 3 times. And if you're in the top 50, even actually to the top like 70, I've seen you at least 4 times. I've seen you at least 4 games of you this year. And so, like with Randell, I would really back him up against anybody, and that is including guys like, if you had to pick, right? Like if you had to go, okay, let's make this trio, and if you have to go, well, Ollie Mathis is the number 1 player in the country, he would be one in the trio. And if you go, well, I want to go with Ollie, I want to go with Mosese Basin, I want to go with Micah Fale, and I go, okay, and then we'll bring Randell off the bench. I'll go, yeah, that's great. I think that works. And if you go, I want to go Ollie, I want to go Mosese, and I want to go, Randell, and then bring Michael off the bench, you'd be like, yeah, that works too. Okay, what about Sean McNaughton, Randell, and Ollie? You'd be like, yeah. And then it's like, oh, we'll bring Mosese off the bench or something like that. It's like, yeah, that looks great too. Because like, I think he works with everybody. And this is where I hope that like all these selectors and that, not just for New Zealand secondary schools or for under 18s, but even for the Blues, run them through these scenarios. Like, put him with like Lewis and that. Put him with Ethan. Put him with, Charlie Bent and those guys, and Rangiwai and what's his name, Zay. With because I mean even Cruz from Sacred Heart, I think has a good shot at making under 18s Blues. I would put him there. I would put. Even with like Luke Watson and what's his name? Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the number 8 from Westlake Boys. But even if you put him with Randell and having those guys all together, be like, oh, okay, those guys they can all fit. They all fit together. Randell is not losing anything. He's just gonna watch it and play, and then go, okay, this is just a little bit faster. Because that's all it really is. It's just a little bit faster. But there's like a bunch of guys in the 1B that easily should be playing 1A. They just happen to go to a different school that you just can't. That's why I say, like, if you're in the 1B, don't worry about Auckland rugby. Don't worry about staying in Auckland. If you want bigger, harder games, but going to an Auckland school is hard, just go to a CNI team. Go to a Super 8 team. Apply. Tell them who you are, ring them up and say, yeah, I'm playing for the first thing up here. I want to come down to your guys' school, just to get better rugby, better games. I don't want to be in the 1B, I want to be amongst the top players in the country, and that's what the CNI and the Super 8 do. Because with, the way that they've blocked it so that you can't transfer and you have to sit out 6 weeks and all that kind of stuff, like, it's just hard for them. It's hard for them to get better games. It's hard for them to get a better team around them. Even though I think Botany and Howick are probably 1A quality teams, it's still hard. It's still hard. Like I think it's still hard for them to have this inconsistency of game level talent and stuff like that you have to go against.
Good boy.
My biggest question for the 1A final, right, was why the hell did they have it over in Waimea? I mean, they're both East teams, and everyone had to travel all the way out west. I was thinking, like, why did no club in, East Auckland want to host? Which is weird, because I'd be like, well, these are the guys that you want to stay with in the area, that you want to come to your clubs next year, and they didn't want, they didn't want the final, the Auckland Finals. I thought that was strange. And with the crowd that was there, and you could just tell by even the little bit of footage that I had, you needed some kind of small stadium. You needed something like even if they took it to counties, I thought, they need more seats for this. They need a bigger venue for this. And off the top of my head, I can't really think of any kind of venue that would be able to house something like what they had there. I don't know how much people turned up, but it felt like there was between 5 and 10,000, maybe. That's what it felt like. I don't know. I'm just taking a big guess, but it felt like that. And I felt like if it was in a better place, you could have gotten more. Like, not even just Eden Park, but like, I don't know what all the club, seatings and stuff are like, but they needed somebody else, somewhere else to do it. They needed a smaller kind of stadium where what's that one out west? They should have had that one out west over, what is it? Where the basketball stadium thing is as well. They should have had it out there. But I mean, that crowd was massive, and that crowd was really good, and the game was also awesome too. I picked Sacred Heart to win, but I actually thought it was going to be a lot closer than that, and I thought it was going to be a lower scoring game. Even though, I mean, I got there maybe a little bit. I got there, and I think the score was 14-7, I think. And then Rico kicked a couple of penalties. Yeah, something like that. But the whole time it felt like Sacred Heart had control the whole time. Sacred Heart felt like they were ready to go, and they just weren't going to lose this one. Because even every time St. Kennigan's would score, Sacred Heart would just score straight after them, and then add like a penalty or another try and stuff like that. And even though St. Kennigan's fought back, Sacred Heart always had an answer for it. They always had that extra push. They always had, a big play coming. Even going into halftime was the same thing. Is that they knew what they were doing. They knew where they were on the field and how they wanted to attack, and the execution was pretty good. And for such a high intensity game, there wasn't really many mistakes from both sides, which was pretty cool to see, because you could see that everyone was so dialed in. You could see that everyone was so dialed in. I think, Rico was probably my favorite player on the day. Tonga had a massive game too. Tavita had a mean game. I thought he was so good. Rangiwai was good too. VJ had another mean game as well. I wish they gave Ezekiel probably a full half. I would have pulled him on for a full half. But I mean, you know, I don't know what the coaching strategy is for that, but if that was me, that's what I would have done. Just let him unleash and, you know, that kind of stuff. And then, like, I think he proved his worth too by, you know, making a break and making a half break as well. Every time he touched the ball is just devastating kind of thing, eh? But for the most part, the Sacred Heart team, because usually it's always the forwards. It's like usually the forwards and Cohen also played good too. And there were a lot of times where he had the ball and you could see how dangerous he was every time he touched the ball, and those boys on St. Ken's knew we can't let him run that much. We can't let him get too far even across the field, or they were waiting for him to straighten up. They were waiting for him to make his first move and trying to time his attacks and time their defense to close in. And you could kind of tell that St. Kentigans were kind of hesitant because they knew how good he was. And I think he would be one of the guys I would look at for New Zealand secondary schools. They always have like some year 12s make it. I think he might be one of them. Jarrell, I think, would be another one from Kelson Boys. George. Prouting from Napier Boys. Ollie Inch, I think. Not Ollie Inch. Harrison Inch. He'll be another one, probably from Nelson College. I think those guys are probably guys that I would select anyway. Those guys have had all massive, like those four, I think have had really massive seasons this year. And so, but I mean, yeah, that final was just so good to watch. Couldn't take much photos or anything like that. Couldn't get that good. I mean, I was late. It like took me an hour. I hate Auckland traffic so much. Took me almost an hour to get from Botany Downs all the way out west. And you know, one little car accident and then everything freezes up. My thing is that like Sacred Heart now has to watch out for Westlake Boys. And from the start of the season, I've said that Westlake Boys is a threat, and they're always going to be a threat to this. And even for Sacred Heart, as much as this is a massive win for them, they cannot forget about the fact that their season is not over. Yes, they got the freaking monkey off the back in terms of winning a 1A title since 61 or 4 or 5 or whatever it was. And Auckland teams always have this problem, is that once they win the 1A, they kind of switch off. They switch off and they feel like their season is over because they just pound the like, oh, we're going to win the 1A. It's like, bro, there's nationals, like there's a top 4 after this. And all these guys are just emotionally drained of all that they put into the season, that the 1A finishes, the final whistle blows, and then they're just like, we're kind of done. You know, we completed our season, we completed our goals, and then they think, oh, we'll just get past the North Harbour and then see what happens in the top 4, and then they don't usually win in the top 4. I mean, I've talked about this before, how many times Auckland teams do not win the top 4. And people always say, oh, well, it's because they play a harder competition. No, you don't. Not all the time. There's heaps of variables in it too. Where the fact that you guys don't travel. Aucklanders don't travel when it comes to games. You don't travel throughout the year. Super 8, CNI, Miles Toyota Cup, they all travel. Otago down there, they all travel. Everybody travels. And we're not talking about like an hour travel, we're talking about 4 hours travel, 5 hours travel sometimes, 8 hours travel sometimes. So like, the fact that you're like, oh, we're in the hardest competition, I was like, yeah, you all play the same. Structure's different. Actually, this year is probably the first time I've seen Sacred Heart play a different way that Auckland teams play rugby. And coaches are going to have a go at me for this. Go, oh, we play this different brand. I was like, no, you don't. You bash all big boys. You all bash big boys. And then you find other big boys out on the end to try and make tracks down the side and make little breaks. But you're just bashing big boys. No real kicking structure. You have like the odd guys on teams that have a kicking game. Don't really utilize them that much. This time, now you've got Rico, who's a flipping magician when it comes to kicking. That I saw Sacred Heart actually change it up, and they don't actually bash all their big boys all the time. Their pods are kind of different from everybody else. And so like I can kind of see that working if they all stay mentally clued in and plugged into, we won, cool, this is not the end. We still got Westlake boys, and then we want to go through and smash Hamilton boys, Southland boys, or Scots, or, you know, Palmy, whoever gets through. You know, like, if they still have that mentality, because I still think Sacred Heart is the number 1 team in the country, but they still have to win. I had them number 1 at the beginning. I still think they're the number 1 team, but they still have to play the games. Now, are they switched on is kind of the question. I know Hamilton boys are switched on. They always are. They don't switch off. Might be kind of their problem, but they don't switch off. You know why? Because they finish the season and then they still carry on in 7s. Then they finish that season and they're still doing it in touch. Always champions. Never switch off. Guys like Palmy boys, same thing. Play in the Super 8, have a lot of travel, know how to play Auckland teams. Solid. Scots College, different story. I'll get back to them on that. Southland boys, tough boys. Farm boys don't care about islanders, don't care about big boys, don't care about city fellas. They will smash and smash and smash, and they don't care. They have no fear of big fellas and island boys and city guys and all that kind of stuff. Just hard farm boys. Hard farm boys, solid rugby players. Lack a bit here and there. Just what the South Island does. They lack a bit here and there that the North Island has. Which brings me to something else. Southland boys are going to struggle. They're not going to give up, but they're going to struggle. Now, I don't know if this is going to be the first time since... Let me try to think of the year. 2012? 11? When was Otago boys in St. Kinnigan's? I think that was the last time that a South Island team passed the semi-finals and went into the finals. I think that was because I remember that Otago and St. Kinnigan's, and Otago was stacked too. St. Kinnigan's was a stack, but Otago was stacked. I think it was 2012. Someone's going to correct me, but they went up to St. Kitts and they tried to play, and it just really wasn't what Otago thought it was going to be. And they got punished. And it was surprising. And this is when I was kind of doing my homework on, I must have been 2012, because I was doing my homework. I remember I was doing my homework on like, okay, what is this top 200 going to be, blah, blah, blah. I started looking at players and all that kind of stuff. And I looked at how many rep guys they had. I was like, flip, that's quite a lot, kind of a lot for Otago boys. Saw how many guys that made it through into like rep rugby and stuff. I was thinking, that must be heaps. That must be a really good team. And then I watched the finals. I was like, oh, jeepers, these guys got pumped by St. Kinnigan's. So I actually don't know, because they don't really have like a good track record when it comes to the top four. So I'm not too sure how they're going to go, but I think they're going to struggle. I know they're not going to listen to this and they'll go, well, we're going to come prove you wrong. It's kind of the point of High School Top 200. It's kind of proved me wrong with what I say. And I hope it works. But at the same time, the track record's not the same. I'm still saying they're not scared of any team. I'm still saying they're not going to back down to any team. I'm still saying that they're going to go and give 100% regardless of what I say. But I still believe they're going to struggle. And I think it's Chiefs and Blues, Hurricanes and South Island. I think that's the matchup. So let's say that Southland boys, right? If they play Palmy boys, that's going to be more their style. I don't think Liam is there. Liam O'Connor, I think he's still injured. I don't even know if he'll be back against Scots College. I know Tom is injured. Elson Park, I don't know if he's going to be back. And that's probably, arguably, two of their best players. Actually, I think Eli's and Tane are probably in that same kind of group. But along with Logan Wallace. But my thing is that Scots College is going to be too fast for them. Scots College do not kick the ball out. They tap everything, they run everything, and they tire you out. And even though their boys get tired, because they have some big boys that run and run and run, even though their boys are getting tired, the other guys pick up the slack, and then they wait for their big boys to get their next sort of wave of second, third, fourth breath, and then they wait for them to come in, and then they start taking off, things like that. And I don't know if Southland boys can hang with that kind of rugby. I also think that Palmy might be a bit too strong, depending on if Liam is there and Tom is there. If Liam and Tom are not there in that team, I think that Southland have a chance against Palmy boys. And that's like saying if Palmy boys gets past Scots College, which is also going to be a problem. Because they can't beat Scots College if they don't have Tom and Liam. Even if they got Tom back, without Liam, it's going to be pretty hard. Now, talking about Scots College, I heard and I started watching that game where after the second scrum, which was 10 minutes in, they went to golden oldies because they said they had no cover for props against Fielding High School. Now, this is not a player's problem. This is a coaching staff problem. This is a rugby management problem. My thought is like, well, yeah, this is the boys' game and this is their time to take the field and blah, 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 whatever. At the same time, if you can't field a team, you can't field a team, yo. Right. If you don't have enough props, if you don't bring enough props, that's your problem. I don't see why another team should cater for what you guys are unable to bring or provide. To me, that's unfair. So you're going to take a big thing like scrums out of the game? Like, yeah, Scots College was up by something like 25-0 at halftime. And the game ended up ending in like, what was it, 29-25 or something like that? But that's without scrums from 10 minutes into the game. If you had scrums in this game, and you've redone scrums all the time, and your forward pack has no props, they can't handle it, you're getting pushed back, you're definitely not going to be in good shape to run your game plan, especially what Scots College does and how much they run. Because they'll be gassed and they'll be deflated and there'll be, egos and stuff like that will be hurt because you're getting smashed every single scrum. And having the two Johnston brothers as well as, what's his name? Ah, my goodness. Too many names in my head. Tongafala and the hooker for fielding. It's just going to be, they would have destroyed Scots College throughout this game. Again, this is not the players' fault. This is rugby management fault. That's coaching staff fault. Like, you know what you have and what you don't have. I think that's a weird thing, man. And they played in Wellington. So your whole school's right there. Get one popo that plays for your second 15 or under 15s or whatever it is. But you knew the game was coming up. Now my thing as well is it's like, well, you got Jacob Booth, you got Eli Odenryan, and you got Logan Wallace. All three of them massive scrummages. All three of them solid beast scrummages. I don't know how you're going to get through this game coming this weekend. Now, if Palmy obviously is going to get told by fielding that, hey, they didn't scrum with us, man. How they're going to quickly take those three boys out of this game from that aspect of scrumming because you guys don't have enough props. Again, for Palmy boys, if that was me, I'd be like, bro, that's your deal. That's not us. You better train up one of your number 8s. You better train up an open side or a blind side and go, you better play some prop. Or forfeit the game. Because what are you going to do at top 4 if the same problem is there? You're going to ask Hamilton boys and Sacred Heart and Westlake boys and Southland boys not to scrum? It's like, you can't do that. They won't agree with it. I 100% know they're not going to agree with it. I actually know 100% that, like, Palmy boys is probably not going to agree with it either. Like, no, I'm not doing that. If you're going to call safety for the boys, cool, forfeit your team then. Again, that's not even part of the players' decisions to do this kind of stuff. This is a management and coaching staff problem. If it's about safety of the game, forfeit your game. Because I actually think it was pretty hard on fielding to go, well, we're all here to play the game and now you're saying that you don't have a prop. I still would have made them work it out. I would have just stuck to it and go, no, that's not our problem, man. The goodness of the heart of those boys for that coaching staff for fielding, it's like, oh, okay, well, let's just carry on. And they almost won the game too. Now, if you're 2 or 4 points away from it, scrums matter after that. Scrums matter. Because all those boys are getting rest, knowing coming from that scrum. Think about it, like if your scrum gets pushed back every single time, even if you win your ball, and your scrum is getting pushed back, at the end of that scrum, your guys are probably getting off the ground, trying to see if their neck and their back's okay and their legs not sore, and getting the other guys off on top of them and things like that, and trying to set up. From golden oldies, they just get in their house, they've got league scrums, then they just go jump into their pods, ready to attack. A different dynamic from that. And I feel sorry for fielding that they had to go through that right there at the game. Weird. Again, you're going to say, well, we were 25 points up at halftime. Okay, what was the end score? Exactly, though. That's not what my argument is. My argument is that if you know your team doesn't have props, at least let the team know before you guys are going to play, and let them decide. It can't be on the day stuff, though. It can't be like, oh, hey, by the way, we don't have props. So what are you talking about, you don't have props? You knew we were playing this week. Get your props ready. It sucks, bro. I actually feel really sorry for them. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And I'm sure that a lot of people that are from Wellington that are listening to me right now are going, well, that's what Scots College does. That's the reputation that they have. And I've known this for years now. No, I don't want to agree with it, but it's kind of hard sometimes. And that's just what comes with being at a private school. Private schools, like, yeah, you can get scholarship players, but at the same time, it's like you're pretty skim. So you still have to use the boys that are at that school. And there's some really good players, man. There's really good players that a full fee paying, they're just normal students that go there, just happen to be pretty good at rugby. Whanganui Collegiate does it. St. John's and that do it. St. Paul's Collegiate does it. St. Peter's School in Cambridge, they do it. St. Kennigan's, King's College. All these private schools are all still able to do it with, even though they've got scholarship players, they still got boys that are from their school that can just play rugby. They're just rugby players. Scots have got to do that too. It's really unfair. Lindisfarne, who struggle sometimes, have like the best homegrown players that I've seen, and a team that sometimes where I think, man, I don't know if they have a shot. Flipping those guys come out firing sometimes. Smallest amount of talent, biggest hearts. Lindisfarne College is one of those highly underrated teams. Rathkill's another one that's becoming that way. Yeah, they have some of these scholarship players, but at the same time, those boys that just go to that school, they're not on scholarship and stuff, biggest hearts. 100% effort all the time. Scots College have got to be able to do this too. I don't know what it is, and it's got nothing to do with the players. I've got to keep saying that, because some of you players might be listening to what I'm saying. It's like, bro, that's not our fault. No, it's not your fault, not at all. You guys just worry about playing. Those guys worry about the office and paperwork stuff. Now, if the paperwork's not right, that's not you fellas at all. That's those guys. Those guys that hold the clipboards, those guys that take the phone calls, that's them. So it's going to be interesting this coming week, what's going to happen. whoever turns up to the top 4, it's going to be a massive achievement. And I hope all you guys that do get there enjoy what goes on. Know that it's just a once in a lifetime kind of thing to get there, and it's just the hardest sometimes. Depending on what place you're at, what school you go to, it's the hardest sometimes to get there. It's hard in Auckland to get there. It's harder from North Harbour to get there. You know, it's hard for the South Island. Southland boys getting another shot. I think the last time they were up here was when Ethan de Groot was at school. I think it was the last time they were there. And again, they had a hard time. But I think most of the time, I think we just want to see good, especially from the Southland boys. I've always kind of admired because, I mean, I used to stay in Invercargill and I stayed there for like 3 months or so. And you're far away from everybody, so far away from everybody. And to have so many good rugby players just in a small area, all away from everybody else, you know, like, I admire how good those guys are down there and how much they're always ready to play against the best. I think it's so cool the way they can, you know, really lift themselves up and compete with everybody else in the rest of the country. Anyways, that's it from me today, I think. Gotta go enjoy the rest of the day with my mum for her birthday, celebrate for her, spoil her a bit. But I don't know what game I'm going to this week because you know, we got Toto Hamilton boys, got the Westlake Sacred Heart. Was that this week or week after? Oh, can't remember. But then I was thinking about going to Palmy, seeing if that game was, you know, something like that. Tikawiti and Pataru have their finals here for the Waikato, and so that was like another game that I was thinking about going to as well. But yeah, I'll see what happens. Anyways, love you all. Later, Bolt.